Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. Now I'm actually shooting this video a little bit ass backwards. I've shot all the footage and I was trying to edit the video and put it all together, and I realised it just wasn't coming together. So I thought I might do you a quick intro, we'll talk about what we're actually doing, and then I'm just going to cut some footage in. So that'll probably be the easiest way. As you'll notice, I'm standing at the back of the Pajero. Now why we're standing back here is because recently I've actually purchased a set of lithium or LiFePO 4 cells to do a DIY battery pack for the back of the Pajero. Now the cells that I've got have come from Alibaba, and I'm going to put a link to everything that I talk about in the video. It's going to be links down in the description. I'll try and show you exactly what I've got, so if you want to replicate this you can. So I'll put the seller details, all that sort of stuff for the BMS, the cells, and the box that I've actually got the cells in. It'll make more sense as the video goes on. I've ordered myself 4 cells. Now when you order these off Alibaba, they're going to come in a set of 4, or you can order them in a set of 4 with all the associated hardware. The cells themselves are 3.2 volts, 3.29 volts or something along those lines. Put them in series, you're going to get a 12.8. Now these will typically sit around about 13.4, around about 3.5, 3.55 volts per cell, and around about 13.5 volts give or take when in series. When I originally picked up these cells, they arrive in a box, very well packaged, plenty of foam around them, all that sort of business. So what you need to do with lithium cells when you buy ones like these, you need to do a few tests. So you need to do a capacity test, and you also need to do a balance, or at least a balance check on them to make sure that the cells are matched, internal resistances are all the same, they take a charge the same, and they discharge at the same rate. So when I originally got these, I think they tested as 3.302, 3.301 out of the box. All of them were exactly the same, and then I tested them at different stages through the charging and discharging phases. Now I'm about to put it back on charge, but I just wanted to have a look and see what our voltages have gone to overnight after it's been resting for some time. Now lithium does get to its resting state, or resting voltage, pretty quickly, but just want to check these out again, just monitoring these through the charge cycle, just see as far as their balance goes and making sure they're all staying around about the same voltage. I think at most I saw about 0.01 of a voltage variation between some of the cells, but left alone they all sort of balance themselves out. Now the BMS that I've got in here is a Daly 4S. So the cells themselves are 272 amp hours each, 3.2 volts. Put them in series, 12.8 volts, or a 12 volt battery, maintaining that 272 amp hours. So we've got nearly 300 amp hours sitting in the back of the Pajero here, which is a big change from the 125 amp hour AGM battery that used to be in here. Now if you know your battery chemistries, you know that typically you'll discharge an AGM down to around about 50% of its capacity, which meant I had around about 60 amps of usable power with the AGM. I'd often draw that down a little bit more than that, and I've got no issues drawing my AGMs down around about 80%. I try not to, but I have done it on occasion. Now the battery that I pulled out of here was around about 6 to 7 years old. I've got some AGMs in the caravan, they're all about the same. My AGMs typically run 24/7 or close enough to, with solar input, dcdc charges, all that sort of stuff. So they have a pretty good life, they're always topped up, and they never stay discharged for too long because they're always sucking power off the solar, and they're getting cycled regularly. So I've got AGMs in play that have been around 7 years old. So I treat my batteries well, but I use them as batteries. That's what they're there for. I don't sort of go, oh, I've only got to take it down to 80% and then top it back up. No, I tend to hammer my batteries, and my batteries get used. I just make sure they get a good charge cycle, and I've got good charges typically, and I try and look after them that way. That being said, with the lithium, you can draw these down 80 to 100%, or down to sort of 20%. This one I've tested and drawn it all the way down. The BMS will cut this off at low voltage. Low voltage on this is around about 2.5 volts, which is about 10 volts all told, and I'm never going to draw that down. I did bring it down to around about, I think it was 2.6 through the battery testing when I was doing the capacity test, and it did charge up and took up something like 290 amp hours or nearly 300 amp hours. So it well and truly completed the capacity test with no issues. The little meter that I've got here that you'll see throughout the testing, I have set that up as far as 272 amp hours, and I'm probably going to alter my charge states of my charger rather than using the lithium profile in the inner drive that I've got here. I'm probably going to do custom, use the program mode, and I'm not going to top this up to full. I'm only going to top it up to about 90%. Still going to give me heaps and heaps of capacity, and that's going to give me a slightly longer life on the lithium batteries there. It is tight and trying to get down to me. So because I'm working with nearly 300 amp hours worth of battery, when I originally started to charge it, I was just going to use my little 20 amp charger, variable 12 volt charger that I use for amateur radio purposes and various things around the house, like a lab power supply, if you will. But what I found when I wanted to try and put in the 14.4 volts to charge this, it was only putting in around about 10 to 12, maybe 15 amps, depending on how I played with it. And I had some concerns there that once this took the charge and that voltage creeped up, it might spike the voltage and then all of a sudden it was going to push all this current through. So I didn't want to do that. So I ducked down to JCar and I went and bought a lithium battery charger. It cost me about 250 bucks, something thereabouts. Review to come on that later on. Again, testing these to make sure that the voltage were always staying the same, that they were staying balanced, etc. And everything's been really good. I've been really happy with these cells. Out of the box, they were listed as brand new, and I will agree with that. They have been brand new. Capacity tested, they tested at nearly 300 amp hours. So they're well and truly have the 272 amp hour capacity listed on the cells. And everything has been perfect. The delivery time was around about, I want to say about 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks, I think. Obviously with COVID and everything coming on, getting these into Australia obviously took some time. All told, the batteries plus the BMS, I want to say was around about $750 to $800. I'll put all this up on the screen there. So it was around, considered about $800 delivered. Now for nearly 300 amp hours worth of battery, that's a hell of a bargain. You've got all these different batteries popping up now for 100, 120 amp hours, $600, $700, but you know, if you want to start looking at a decent brand, like a brand name thing, you're still looking at around $1,000 to $1,300 for 100 amp hours. I've got nearly 3 times that in the back of the Pajero. So with that in mind, because I now have an excess of power, I'm going to look at different things that I can do to use that power. Now this wasn't the plan originally. I had no intentions of going out and buying what I'm about to show you here, but now it makes sense. I've been out and I've been buying again. Now to be honest, if I bought this and I wasn't doing YouTube, it had already been in the car and it would no doubt be working, but for testing purposes and all this sort of business, and because likely somebody's going to ask, somebody's going to want to know, look, I'm curious myself. So what I did today for purposes of testing and for making a YouTube video, having some content that's going to be interesting, and now for possibly going in the car. Like I must admit, I was thinking induction cooker to go with the lithium for the car, but I was thinking, look, I don't really need it. I'm happy with my little gas cooker, all that sort of stuff. And then I went and bought one today, and it cost me 107 bucks. Put details up on the screen. But I was thinking, yeah, this will be good for the purpose of testing, and it'll give me something to put a load on the lithium and etc, etc. And then I've got it out and I've started playing with it, and I've been playing with it inside on the mains, and I'm starting to think, you know what, this might be the way to go. No heavier than the cooker, so probably a little bit less weight than possibly the gas cooker. I'm not really sure, so I think that sort of weight in your mind. What I've done is I've got it hooked up to the lithium battery, which is then running through the King's 1500 watt inverter, which is then going to our little induction cooker. It's because I only have 100 amp BMS, I really don't want to go over that. I'm trying to use that as my limiting factor for these batteries, because look, I really don't need to be pushing things that are pulling over 100 amps. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to be the, look, I'm not the coffee guy, I'm not the coffee grinder guy and all this sort of stuff, but the more that I have this little induction cooker, the more it seems to make sense. From a weight perspective, I really want something that I can, what I really want, you've seen that I recently did the video up there where I built the table for the back of the Pajero, and I've got the fridge in there. And this is for when I go away camping. I basically have another little box that sits in the back of the Pajero that normally has my little burner, a hot plate, and it would have plates and cutlery and all that sort of stuff. So to get away from that, I've built the the plates and the stuff and the bowls and all that sort of thing into the table build that I had at the back. Because what I really want to do is to be able to just pull up on the side of the road and cook something if I want to, or if I'm camping, or I'm just having a day out. I don't have to go and grab that box, stick it in the back to be able to carry all that stuff out of the car. What I want to be able to do, in theory, is have this stuff already in the car. I don't really want to be carrying gas canisters in the car just for convenience. They're great for camping, but I don't want to do that as just leaving it in the car. I just don't. But if I can get away with this little induction cooker, even if it's not running on 2000 watts, if I can run this on the sort of, you know, 600, 800 watts, and it still cooks things at a reasonable pace, I'm going to be okay with that. Now I see on the 12 volt forums and the different forums and Facebook pages and stuff like that, the process that a lot of people take when going to lithium is kind of a little bit opposite for why I've gone with lithium. They go with it to reduce weight. Now I didn't weigh these, but they basically weigh about the same as the AGM that I've taken out. Probably a little bit less, but I've multiplied my capacity basically by about a factor of 5. So we're about 5 times the battery for about the same weight. So I haven't reduced weight here. When I go and do this in the caravan and replace 2 AGMs, I'm certainly going to be a weight saving there. A lot of people do it to save weight, and they do it because they already have the power needs. I don't. I didn't have the power needs. When I did the AGM install with the solar and all that sort of stuff, I did it with the intention of completely avoiding having an inverter in the car, because I simply didn't want to do it. I wanted everything to be as efficient as possible, as simple as possible, and not require big inverters and big cables and all that sort of business. So I stuck with a 350 watt inverter over the back, and everything else that I could get, where I could get it, was 12 volt. The only reason I stuck in the 350 watt inverter into the back of the car was because I had some 18 volt battery chargers for some tools, chainsaws, etc. from the Azedo tools. Again, review up in the corner there. And I needed to charge those. And I've also got a laptop that has a 190 watt power supply, brick power supply, which you just simply can't get in 12 volt. I was happy with that. I was happy running all my 12 volt stuff. I didn't need kettles, I didn't need coffee makers, I didn't need mixers, I didn't need microwaves. I still don't. The reason I went with lithium was to get some extra capacity, and the main reason I went with it was to do a video for you guys, frankly. Try and look at stuff that people are interested in, and you know, I'm interested as well, and then I try and get my videos to go in that general direction. And I love fiddling with electronics, and I liked electronics reviews, and I like the DIY thing, which is why I went down the route of the DIY battery. Having a conversation with my mate Steve, Mud Ducks 4-wheel drive, touring, he's gone with a DCS under bonnet, off the shelf, plug and play system from DCS for his 200 series. Now we've had conversations. He said, look, I don't want to do this, I don't want to DIY. Basically he says, you know, he's happy with the off the shelf thing, that he doesn't understand my motivation to want to DIY this stuff. He likes to buy the off the shelf stuff, he's happy to spend the extra bucks. I like doing the DIY thing, which is just a little bit different to the way he wants to do it. For this, I like to play, I like to fiddle with stuff, and look, I think it makes for interesting videos when I do this. So, that being said, my motivation was to increase my capacity. If I was going to be a weight saving, so be it. I didn't get that, but whatever. I wanted to see if it was going to work. I wanted to know whether I could get away with a lithium battery set for about $700-800 when everything else that I was looking at the time was, you know, $1,000 plus. So, that being said, 4 lithium cells, around about $700, and the BMS, which is around about, I think I paid about $80 or $90 or something like that. Okay everyone, just future me, just wanted to pop in to remind past me, who's you've been watching, to let you know that the whole setup that you're seeing here for going the charger, for going the dcdc charger and the solar panel, etc. So for the batteries, which are around about the $700, we've already put that up on the screen. The inverter, the 1500 watt 240 volt Kings inverter, it cost me $189. That was less than $200. And the induction and the Breville induction cooker, which is about $107. I think I paid for that. Again, put links and stuff down in the description for you. So all told, this setup for going the charger, solar panels, etc., and wiring, $1,000. Or just less than $1,000 basically, so just under. Now keep in mind that the battery cells, they change in price. and they can change day to day, so you know, keep your eye out and look for those. But basically what you see here, so the battery, the inverter and the induction cooker, $1,000. So if you've already got a solar setup, you've already got your dcdc charger that's capable of doing lithium, basically for $1,000 you can get this same setup. Anyway, I'll let you ponder that one. Now, I have made the mistake of buying 100 amp BMS. I should have poked for the, I should have plonked down for the 200 amp out of the gate, which means I'm going to have to go and buy a 200 amp one later on. And the reason why I'm going to need to do that is I've got myself a little induction cooker. And the reason I bought this was to do some load testing. Through the process of trying to find different things with 12 volt loads, the biggest load I could really find was the little 12 volt Road Chef oven. That's only pulling 10 amps. For 300 amp hours batteries, that's like 30 hours worth of running. So, and I really wanted to test the load. I want to test the BMS, I want to test the batteries, I wanted to test the whole unit. So I went out and bought myself a heat gun, thinking that was going to provide a decent load. But you'll see here that it must use like PWM control as far as heating the element goes, and it just wasn't working on the little 600 watt inverter that I had hooked up. Just got it plugged into the little inverter. Turn your inverter on. Gonna get our little clamp meter here. Okay, so currently we're pulling about half an amp. So that must just be standby on the inverter. This on, I'm not sure what temp this is going to be at all, but we'll switch it on, we'll put it on low. Okay, so it's on fan speed 1 and it's on 50 degrees Celsius, so you can see that there. So it sounds like our little inverter's struggling there. We're pulling out. It's really struggling over here, and I'm not sure what it is that's struggling as such, because the battery itself is capable up to, I think, around about a 250 odd amp draw. But the BMS that we've got is only capable of 100 amps. So we're not pushing the battery, and we're certainly not pushing the BMS there at all at this stage. I think what we're doing is pushing the inverter. It seems to be, there's a spike to 22, 28. So I thought, right, this is the inverter playing up. So I went out and bought one of the Kings one. I wanted something that I could buy on the day, something that was close. Kings, I'm not the biggest fan of Kings. I hate that they splash Kings over everything. But some things they get right. And I've bought some things off them in the past and I've had no issues with it. But again, on the 12 volt forums, Kings get smashed. I'm somewhere in the middle. You know, I've seen people with their swags and all that sort of stuff, and they've been very, very happy. But I've heard of people that have had their rooftop tents who haven't been so happy. And look, and I've heard mixed reviews of their after-sales service. I'm not a brand snob. If I can see value in something and it's something that's going to work for me, then I don't care what name's on the front, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to spend the extra bucks, like the Energive dcdc chargers I've got sitting here. But I'm also happy to have the $200 or $189 Kings 1500 watt inverter as part of this system. I'd like it to be in a drive, but it's not, and I don't care. So that being said, I went out and bought the Kings 1500 watt inverter for $189 so I could run the heat gun. Now I still had the same issues. I didn't realise it was a PWM. I actually thought it was the little 600 watt Jandal inverter that I had that was giving me the issues. I think I paid about $60 off that eBay. And at this stage, it seems to do the job. Video and review to come with that later on. So once I had the inverter, I needed to be able to plug something into it. And I pulled heaters and fans and lights and all this sort of stuff out of the house, and I plugged everything in. And again, the most I was getting was sort of 15, 20 amp loads, and it just wasn't working. I needed something bigger. So I thought, right, I'm going to get myself an induction cooker, a variable induction cooker, so I can change the voltage, so I can change the wattage, and I can choose my load basically. So that's why I went down to, went up to Good Guys and bought this one. You can get ones from Kmart for around about $50, and they seem to have some good reviews. And frankly, I would have had a Kmart one if they had one in a store that was local to me. They just didn't. I had to take a sort of a 20-30 minute drive to get to a store that supposedly had some in stock. So I went up to the Good Guys, had a look at a few of their options. There was two there. This is the Breville one, which I've got here. and there was another brand which frankly I quite like the look of, and I went up and I was having a look and the bloke said, yeah, we don't have any of those other ones, it's the only one we've got in stock is the one you see sitting on the shelf. So for 107 bucks, I got the Breville one. Now I don't know anything about induction cookers, review of this one to come later on. There is somebody that's got one of the Kmart ones for sale for about 20 bucks or 25 bucks locally on Facebook, secondhand. And I think I might go and pick that up just so I've got something to compare it to. And I'm finding these are pretty handy. And I'd just be interested to see which one's going to be a bit more of a fit for the table that we've got here. So just to give you an idea of what the kind of plan is, and we're parked on the driveway, so this is nice and high. This is the table build that you can see here. Again, video up the top there of the build and the thought process that's gone into this. So if I take out this tub, what I've actually found is my little induction cooker drops nicely into here. And sits there just nicely. Now it does require a bit of support because it is going to require some additional support because it is possible for that to slip out of position where it is at the moment without some modifications and fall through. But as you can see, that sits there just nicely. I can plug that into our inverter, which I'll show you we've got installed in the back over here. Turn her on. Now this is going to require a pan. And unfortunately my little low profile one that I've got here, an aluminium base, so it's not gonna, this is not gonna recognise it, which I'm a bit upset about. Let me just turn that off, let me go and get my other pan. Purpose of showing you how this works, I've got a pan that I bought at the same time that I bought the induction cooker. Now they were 50 bucks. Old mate said to me, have you got a pan that's gonna work on the induction cooker? And I said, well, I think I do, I'm gonna go through my pots and pans at home. And he said, well, this one's 27 bucks. I went, okay, so it's Stone Don or something like that. And I went, yeah, okay, I've heard of that brand. And I said, are you sure it's $27? He's gone, yeah, that's what the sale says, right? And it was 50 bucks and there was a 15% sale on it, 15% off. And he told me this is 27 bucks. So I'll let you do that math in your head and you'll understand why I grabbed it. Chuck a little bit of water in. Just so I've got something to show you as an example. I don't want to put too much weight on it because I haven't fixed it in yet. So here's our little cooktop. Just making sure that's going to stay there. Put that on. Give her some power. I'm going to the medium setting, which automatically puts this at 1000 watts, which, if we have a look at our meter over here, we are now pulling 92 amps, which is 91, 92 amps getting pulled on that. Actually, it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to put that monitor over here. Anyway, so we're now pulling around about 91 amps out of our battery through a BMS, so that keeps our BMS happy. And we haven't put a lot of water in this, but you'll see how quickly this works. Whoop. I probably could have put a little bit more water in this. Probably a little bit more light here. You can see how quickly that's bringing that water to the boil. Now it's not boiling exactly, but I'm not sticking my finger in there for too long. But anyway, you get the idea. You can see how quickly that heats up. So I think you can get the idea of how quickly this works and how efficient it is, even though I'm only running it at 1000 watts. Which is half the power of what it could use. Ultimately, if I cranked it up, it would use around about 200 amps, which is the need for the 200 amp BMS. Did cook dinner the other night at home, using this, running off the battery, using the little induction cooktop. Everything worked perfectly, might I add. So I was very happy with it, albeit that I did burn some of my dinner. I was cooking some stuff inside and I was using this to cook part of dinner, so I was running backwards and forwards between the two pans and, well, it didn't end well. When I put the box in the back when I go camping, which normally has my little gas cooktop, has the gas canisters, all that sort of stuff, I can get rid of that. I'm not really saving any weight. I would say, you know, between these, they're probably about the same weight as the little gas canisters and the little cooker. I'm certainly going to save space because what I'm going to do is this is going to fold up. What's going to happen is this is going to stay there. I'm going to mount that as a permanent addition, and this is going to fold up rather than having that tub there. I'll still have a look for a collapsible tub that I can use for washing up duties if I want to. I'd still like to find myself a nice flat saucepan that can permanently stay behind there like the other one. Okay, so that's where I'm at this point. I've stuck the inverter in over the back here. Going to have to figure out a way just to mount the induction cooker under the bottom. Once I've got that all done, I'll give you another look and we'll show you it in action. We'll use it in anger out in the bush somewhere, and we'll show you how she goes. One place that I go to, one resource that I've been going to, and I trust, I wouldn't say implicitly, but I tend to take his information as being reliable and genuine, is Will Pros. He does a lot of solar stuff, lithium stuff and all that sort of stuff, so he does lots of testing and all that sort of thing. So I've used him as a little bit of a guide as to what retailers and what retailers to use, what products to keep an eye out for, but more typically what to avoid, and thus far it's worked out pretty well for me. That being said, any information you get, especially when it's regarding new technology, lithium and stuff like that, go and do your research, check it, get multiple sources, read your forums, ask the questions, and take the information that you get with a grain of salt. And basically that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here. I'm testing it, and I'm testing it for myself. I want to know what it can do, and I want to test the limits of it, and I want to find out how it works. I take the information in and I hold it in my head, and then I go and find out for myself, and then obviously I like to come and share it with you. So with that in mind, if you've got any points, any tips, I'm still learning about lithium and charging profiles and all that sort of stuff. I'm happy with what I've got at this stage, and obviously you can see it working, and you're part of my test. You're seeing how it works, and I'm just showing you. I'm not telling you to go out and buy lithium. Everybody seems to ask about batteries and stuff on a lot of the 12-volt forums, and everybody's jumping and going, buy lithium, buy lithium, buy lithium. No, look, if AGM works for you, go and buy AGM. There's plenty of life still left in AGM. But there are benefits to lithium, but they're expensive. You're typically going to save weight, or you can increase your capacity for the same weight. Current draw that you can get off a lithium is considerably more than an AGM. The charge cycle, a lot of batteries you can charge around about 1C. So 1C is basically the amp hour rating of the battery. So if you've got 100 amp hours, then you can typically charge it at 100 amps. I wouldn't do that. I would reduce that rate to probably, I think some of them will do a 0.5C, so you know, like at 50 amps or something along those lines. That's probably a better realistic charge rate. The charge rates are excellent. I'm going to be pumping in 50 amps into this from from my dcdc charger, the Enerdrive over there. Solar is going to get maximum of around about 15 amps, I think it is. I think I've seen up 17, 18. I think from the 250 odd watt solar panel that we've got on top. That's a house panel, but it's still only 250 watts. 200 watt folding panels that are also matched to that higher voltage, so the 24 watt panels that I can use there as well. You get, 30 something plus amps. If I'm set up and I'm in a stationary position, I want to use all the panels. So another reason that I went with lithium was because I've got the fridge running in the car. Now the AGM, if I would tend to leave that fridge running for 2 to 3 days, I would get to a voltage on the AGM that was lower than what I was comfortable with, because I don't drive this car to work, so it can sit here for 5, 6, 7 days at a time, and that was enough to sort of start putting that AGM battery into a position where it was unhappy and it was getting to a voltage lower than what I was comfortable with. And certainly in the winter months, I can't always get sun on the solar panel to keep it going. If I can put it in the sun, it'll run indefinitely, it doesn't care, it's happy. Parked down the side of the driveway, it doesn't always get sun. In the winter months, it sees even less sun, and it's just not keeping that battery going. So I was starting to get concerned about the life and the health of that battery. And the battery was starting to show signs of starting to get towards the end of its life. I left my little Waco 35 litre fridge or whatever it is running on freezer, and I had that running for, I don't know, it was about 5 or 6 days, and I think I was still up around about the 65, 75% or something on the battery like that. So had plenty of battery left. I can leave this parked in the driveway, even if it's not getting any sun, it's rainy days, whatever, it doesn't matter. That battery's still going to be healthy enough for me to come home on the next weekend or next time I've got some time off, take the car for a drive, top it back up, and I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about the health of the battery. And then when I go camping, because I'm going to be driving, I'm going to be forward driving, I'm going to be getting solar panel power, all that sort of stuff, I can use my induction cooker and I don't need to worry about, you know, how much power I've got left and doing the math and checking my voltages in the morning and trying to park the car in the sun and all that sort of stuff. So many benefits, with cost being the only downfall really, I guess, and a little bit of safety, but you should be being safe with your AGMs anyway. Look, we're running out of light. I don't know whether you can tell. Okay, just me again. Just a quick one. I apologise if I got food on my face. I'm just editing the video whilst having lunch. Now, I do have several hours worth of footage where I've gone through the testing. I showed all the setup, making the box, drilling holes and all that sort of stuff. So what I decided to do was cut this down just to make it a bit more entertaining rather than informational. So I have all that footage there. So if you guys got to the end of this video and you want me to put that together and pretty much show you from start to finish, charging it up, the thoughts, process, all that sort of stuff, let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to get around and put it together in a video for you. It's not going to be entertaining. It's probably going to be, you know, an hour long or something like that. But if you want that information, you want to see that and stepping you through the process, let me know in the comment down below and I'll get that up for you. But if you're happy with this sort of level of content, where I've pretty much just glossed over it, and you know, there's probably about 3 weeks worth of testing and stuff that's just been cut out of this video. So if you want that, let me know and I'll do what I can do. I'm going to pack this up. I'm going inside. Thanks very much for stopping by. If you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, if you've got any advice, stick them down below and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers. If you want to know if I can still fit the cover on, there you go. Nice and flat. How good's that?